Hey again, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I mentioned before that I think that I'm going to be taking my content over to some other platforms because the platform that we're currently on seems to be censoring not only my channel but a lot of other channels as well. And as we know, censorship is not good. You can't have any real dialogue if everyone doesn't get to put their 2 cents worth in. So just be aware that maybe this next year we will be heading over to some of those other. There's our doggy dog. Hello, doggy dog. Heading over to some of those other platforms, and hopefully we can speak a little freer than what we're able to talk about here. And speaking of speaking and talking, I was talking with Connor recently. We had a very nice and really long conversation that I'm going to break up into 3 parts, and that's not even the end of our discussions. But it's well worth watching and listening to these conversations because he's put these graphics out in. It's put out so well that if you did not understand what a narcissist or a sociopath or a narcopath or a narshole, as latest the latest tag for these people are, if you don't know what they are, this will explain it very well for you. Um, it's very easy to understand, but there's a lot of information. That's why I'm going to go ahead and cut it up into at least this talk into 3 different pieces. And I think that you'll gain a lot out of it. Connor's done very good work in it's just well thought out. It's extremely well thought out. And like I said, even though there's a lot of information, it's very sophisticated. It's easy to understand. He makes it really easy to understand, and always enjoy my conversations with Connor. And I hope that you all gain something and enjoy it as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the conversation that Connor and I had recently, and I hope you enjoy. Hey again, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I have Connor with me again today, and he has some very interesting and wonderful diagrams that he has crafted for our discussion. If you remember last time, we were chatting about the mask of perfection, and this is carrying over from that conversation. Connor, how are you doing?
I'm doing super good today, Tier. And yes, we're gonna have a more serious tone for this conversation,
Okay.
just to go for it.
Okay, fair enough. Why don't we talk just a little bit? If you could lead us back in from the mask of perfection, give us kind of start back there in our conversation. And by the way, folks, if you'll go back to our last video, if you want to take a look at that, that may give you a little bit better platform as to what he's about to talk about today. So, but you're also going to give us kind of the hot rodded stripped down version of that as well, right?
Yes,
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
perfect. So let's start here. I'm gonna show you the Mask of Perfection, the bare bones version here.
Okay.
What we see initially is there's the false self, there's the false narrative, there's the ego supply or ego fuel, there's irrational thought process, and there's also compatible false narrative information. And what we'll take a look at is as we look at this, there's another picture here where all of a sudden it's like a light bulb around the mask of perfection. This is to show that this is kind of a series circuit. And so this showing how fragile this mask of perfection is. Because if we go to the next picture, any break in the chain causes this whole thing to break. And the problem is when this is someone's identity, having an identity crisis is not a good thing. And it's so easy to give an egopath or a narcissist or a narsehole, whatever you want to call them. You can give them this identity crisis just from the tiniest of things. This is such a massive ego, but it's fragile. Almost anything you do can cause injury. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, we went from narc to narsehole. I think I like that one better as well too. But yeah, and that's why they can't stand the light. They can't stand you being transparent. They can't stand anyone being honest because if it does, it may break that fragile circuit that they've created for themselves.
Perfect. And so from here, we're going to move on and see what happens as a consequence for having the mask of perfection as your identity. And
Right.
so we're going to, yeah, so we're going to take a look here at the egopathy, and we're going to take a look at predatory desire. That's the first one here we're going to look at here. So egopathy, predatory desire.
Hang on just a second. Let me pull that one up so that we can follow along with you.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
Awesome. So from the mask of perfection here, what happens is wearing this mask of perfection is going to warp your perception. It's going to warp the mind's perception, and it's going to cause an entire chain reaction on the personality that's going to be developed. It really does limit what kind of personality gets developed. And the very first problem that you're going to have with this mask of perfection is egopathy. It's an inevitable consequence, and it's the unending need and prioritization to feed the ego. Their entire identity relies on people continually telling them that their identity is real. And so they have this never-ending desire that's going to create this need to get this, and they're going to need to develop personality traits to achieve this desire. That's what's happening. There's a need, and now they're going to solve that need.
They live entirely outside of themselves, which is exactly backwards to spirituality.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. And yeah, they what happens here is personality traits that feed their ego become desirable. So if you have a personality trait that's going to feed the ego, that becomes prioritized. They don't care about having personality traits to be a better person. They care about personality traits that feed their ego. So the more a trait feeds the ego, the more desirable it is for them to have it. They don't care what damage is done. If it feeds the ego, they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And so keep that in mind regarding dark personality traits.
Gotcha. Yeah. So egopathy, the inevitable consequence of wearing the mask of perfection. I see that here. Are we still in the middle part of that?
Yeah, I just want to give a quick note. So Egopath is the nickname that I give them. It's a self-descriptive name, as everything they do is to feed their ego. This is what it's all about. And this generally comes down to either controlling others or devaluing others to overvalue themselves. If they can't control you, at least they can say you're no good.
Okay, exactly. It's all relative then. That's why, well, because so many of them are no good themselves, they find it necessary to put everybody else around them down. That's kind of
You
how
got it.
like some people can be, can maybe even seem arrogant, but maybe they even have a reason to be. Maybe they're very good at what they do, or maybe maybe they even have it. Sometimes you go, well, I got
We're
it.
going to cover that in future diagrams.
Oh my God, really? Okay, cool. All righty. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem, man. This is good. This is kind of like a high level discussion with you and me, man, and we're delving into it. So yeah, the next one here, predatory desire. So from egopathy here, this never ending need to feed the ego. Well, what's going to achieve that is being a predator and going after it and hunting for it. That's going to give them the most fix. That's going to give them the most high. So the most bang for their buck. So what happens here is they have everything set up, the never-ending need to be perfect, the never-ending need to be the most dominant, the never-ending need to seek out information to remove their current doubts or any future doubts that their delusions aren't real. And being predatory is going to give them the best scratch for the itch. When these desires are active, so is their prey drive. They wake up in the morning, they want to be a predator. That's what it is. So they evolve this pure predatory desire to feed their ego. There's no give and take here. It's about taking. It's about being the predator. It's about going after the prey. So egopaths are not mentally healthy at all. They are toxic and rotten to the core. They are aggressive in any way to feed their ego, because being predatory usually requires aggression. And so they'll be predatory in all the ways of all the aggression. So direct aggression, indirect aggression, active aggression, passive aggression, reactive aggression, predatory aggression, overt aggression, or covert aggression. It's all about aggression to feed their ego, because if they do this aggression, they can get the results that they desire. So this is why they're so incurable. There's no desire to change. They only have a desire to continue to be this perfect predator.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And most of them, it seems the ones that I ran into were covert. It was hard to pick up on what they're doing until it's almost too late. They've become very good at what they do, wearing their mask of perfection, because it is a mask. And I think they get better as time goes on until they become found out by people like us.
That's right. And I mean, it's taken a lot of people working together who have been victims of this stuff to figure out what the hell are we dealing with. And that's one of the reasons why I said mask of perfection, know thy enemy, because
Well, it
that's what
wasn't
we're
until
doing.
I started using some of our digital tools, video and audio, and started to document some of what these narc holes were doing, because they'll have you think, they'll gaslight you into thinking that something never happened or that they said something else. And I'm okay if I make a mistake. Oh, did I misunderstand you? That's fine. But did I misunderstand you 1,000 times in a row? It starts to become apparent that they are using their mask of perfection and their covert narcissism to get that desired result that you're talking about, that feeding their ego. So go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, the next one we're going to look at here is Egopathy Dark Pentad.
Okay, let me cross out of this one here. Oh my God, that looks like something out of a. This looks like something. By the way, folks, this is the first time I kind of like going in cold with Connor on these, because these are the first time I've seen this. That looks like something out of a horror movie. It is.
Oh, well, they
It's
are
like
out of a
real
horror
life.
movie when you think about it.
This is a real life horror movie. This is the dark pentad of egopathy. Okay. All right. So we've gone through the mask of perfection, egopathy, and predatory desire. Looks like your next little box there is a price for everything.
Yeah, this is just explaining the dark pentad. Don't worry, as we go through it, we're going to keep adding another link into the chain.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a price for everything. There's a price for having this mask of perfection, and it keeps costing you. It doesn't end at egopathy and predatory desire. It keeps going. There's more and more costs. There's more and more consequences. And so the problem here is the psychological cost of having a personality trait is the desire to use the trait. The whole point of a trait is to be used. Otherwise, your personality is not going to keep it around. It needs to be able to solve problems. So your personality traits really are a to-do list. It says, hey, you need help? I can help.
Okay.
So we have hard-coded personality traits. We're born with this thanks to evolution. We have pleasure-seeking, pain avoidance, or if you want to call it advantage-seeking and a disadvantage avoidance, it's the same sort of deal. And pleasure and pain is the way to sort of tell and differentiate between advantage and disadvantage. If it hurts you, well, it's probably not good for you. So yeah, personality
So
traits. Yeah, so personality traits are going to exist in a hierarchy. Not all traits are equal. Some traits are going to be used way more than others. So the more a trait is used and relied on, the more say it gets. So when it comes down to making a decision, if you really rely on sadism, you really rely on hurting others to feel good, well, guess what you're likely going to do? It's kind of a it's kind of self-explanatory. And yeah,
yeah.
practice makes permanent. So the more you use these traits, the more you're going to rely on these traits, and the more you're going to keep using these traits.
Hmm. Hmm. Like
And
the
so you're
abusive
going,
boss. That seems like something that either a spouse or an abusive boss would use. That seems like a trait that they could keep somebody in line with.
oh yeah, yeah, and one thing we'll cover here, because it's so difficult to determine what exactly is a personality trait. Like where does the line begin and where does it end? How do you exactly define a trait? And so what I decided to do here is I decided to give out the big five here of egosyntonic dark personality traits. And that goes to this table here. And I say, hey, look, these traits will help feed the ego and predatory desire.
Okay.
So we have five dark traits here. We have psychopathy or psychopathy, Machiavellianism, sociopathy or sociopathy. We have narcissism, and we have sadism.
Okay.
Now, people might want to disagree with me on the way I have defined these, but the definitions themselves are what count. So if you guys out there have a better idea, instead of calling it narcissism, if you have a better idea for this definition, a better word for this definition, you can feel free to let Tier or myself know.
Yeah, I struggle with that too because a narcissist and the what is based on that story that he was this perfect and beautiful being that fell in love with himself. I just think the egopathy is actually a better term. That's the one, or the even the narc hole. I think that's just hilarious. But it doesn't quite really fit the bill when you say narcissism. Sometime I think as you progress, or as we all progress in these in our studies of these people, and I use that term loosely, maybe we'll come up with another term. For now, we have to use narcissism, but like Connor says, if you guys can come up with another, you know what, put that in the description. Y'all can participate. That's what this is, a discussion channel. Down in the description, tell us if you think that you can come up with a term that may more accurately describe and I'm giving you the air quotes, narcissist. So go ahead, Connor.
Perfect. So we'll start with the basics here. So I'm just going to cover just the simple part, because you have the dark trait of psychopathy or psychopathy, and put simply, to get what I want, I do what I want. That's what a psychopath is. Psychopath doesn't care about you or the laws or whatever. It's what they want, they're going to do. I want, I take. That's
Yeah, and I've experienced that with people. When you think that you are not only they unhealthy to themselves, but they're socially unhealthy, and you're looking at a mask, you have no idea what's happening underneath. But they do what they want. Oh my God, they engineer things to get what they want using you and others. It's mind-boggling that they can. I still wonder if they get so deep into their mask traits that maybe they don't even remember who they really are. So.
Oh, whatever existed of them is long dead.
Mm-hmm.
They are currently what they are, and that's all they are.
Uh-huh. I believe that.
So the next one here, Machiavellianism. Now, Machiavellianism, the trait, not the actual mindset, because there's an actual Machiavellianism mindset, which actually is more benevolent. It's basically trying to think like a predator to prevent bad things from happening. But that's different. This is the Machiavellianism trait itself.
I'm glad you straightened that out, because I've actually I've read some of his material, and I didn't really gather that they were two different things. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, there's so much overlap. When I started reading about Max, there was almost like identical descriptions of narcissists. It really was there's a big overlap in terms of it. So it was really hard to try and do it. But basically, Machiavellianism, the trait, is about deceiving others and not being held accountable, and hiding who you are and what you do from others.
And that's terrible for society and relationships, whether this is a marriage or a family, or whether you're in control of the media or the government. This nonsense, what we're talking about here, is coming from the top down. They're
Oh
making
yeah, censorship, man.
the
That's the
censorship.
Machiavellianism.
That's exactly Machiavellianism, and that's what's been going on. Is that these people have these traits innate, they the seed of those traits, but then they somehow, through some form of media or repetition, find that they have there's the air quote, permission to behave that way. Society, right? There's a time when we weren't able, where people would be punished for this sort of thing. Now it's just everywhere. So, and this is why it's so needed, why your diagrams are so important and very well thought out, I might add.
Thank you, Tier. And yes, we'll go to the next one, sociopathy or sociopathy. This
Uh-huh.
one, oh my God, this one gave me the headache of all headaches. It
Okay.
came down to, I use and exploit others. To get what I want, I use and exploit others. That is sociopathy.
A user
And
of people and a lover of things.
oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Glad
That's
you like
good.
it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we go to narcissism. Now, this one again is tough. I will just kind of explain this one. This is prioritization of delusions over reality. This means their mask of perfection and their false perfect self they believe themselves to be.
Uh-huh.
So what this means is they deceive themselves. To get what they want, they deceive themselves. And so that means, hey, I want to be perfect. Well, guess what? I am. I am perfect.
Okay. They
You
do
did
think,
it.
don't they? Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, it seems crazy, but it really is that simple. It's like, oh, look, yeah, you lie to yourself, and that's what you do. Like, And
And they
that
are
causes
very
problems.
difficult to be around someone who thinks that they're perfect. You can't have any meaningful relationships with people that don't have a sense of humility and can correct issues as they come up, because you're the only one that's correcting, and you will correct yourself completely into their world if you're not careful.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, like this is why, the guys, I just want to take a moment here. This is why having a discussion with Tier is so invaluable to me, because this is the kind of like peer review that that is gone through step by step, and as you guys follow along and listen in, like it gives you more than what I could give you guys alone, because you have another person being able to weigh in on this, and
Well,
it's really
sadly to say, I've experienced this firsthand and from many people, from a whole gaggle of these fucks. And when you started putting this down, I was like, I'm looking, and they're not all just narcissists. Some of them are actual sociopaths, because narcissism is a term that's like thrown around now, that just because you don't like someone and, they're a narcissist, or they're, whatever. But the spectrum is much wider, and the problem is much wider. And so when I saw, when you put this down, it makes a lot of sense. I don't mind, throwing my 2 cents in. I can't really add anything to it. It's actually very clear. So anyway, I'm glad that I'm glad that we get to have these discussions, Connor. I think it does helps us, and hopefully it helps the people that are listening as well.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, if you guys are just learning what this stuff is for the first time, like this is going to be an eye opener.
It is, and hopefully that they are, going no contact and learning about it. Sometimes it's not so easy to go no contact, but they're understanding that bag of tools that the narcissist slash sociopath, psychopath, sadist does. So
Yep. And yeah, that brings us to our next one here, our fifth dark trait. And I mean, there's other dark traits, but I just wanted to focus on these big ones.
okay, these are the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's sadism or sadism. And this one in particular, this trait is very predatory based. If you want to be a better hunter, if you hurt your enemy, that means they're going to have less chance of getting away and more chance of you winning. This also ties into why they have such a uh, zero sum game mindset, and we'll get into that later. But sadism basically, it's put simply, to get what I want, I hurt others, I destroy others, I cause loss to others, I prey upon others.
See, I think the narcissist doesn't always go for the to destroy, but the sadist absolutely does. I think there is some differences there. Well, I think you've got it laid out here that there are differences.
Yep.
Narcissists are kind of stupid. Sadists, I think, actually, they live for the hurt. They live to destroy, and I know some of those as well. So yes,
Yep. And the thing is, all these traits, a person can have a combination of these traits, which is like really, really bad. And so if we look here at this satanic looking diagram,
it is. That's why I said it looks like the cover of a horror movie. Like, well, it is a horror movie. And and the people that make those movies probably have all of these traits. The people that even make these and design that, yeah, this is very fitting
yeah.
on a
Oh,
couple of
and
different levels.
well, and that it's true. I mean, the thing is, you don't realize it, but if you're a victim of these people, and again, yeah, we use people very loosely. If you're a victim of these predators, of these
Predators.
monsters, you really are living a horror movie. You don't know it, just like the characters in the horror movie don't know that they're living in a horror movie. But
Wow.
just like that, it's like, oh my God, this is you're in trouble.
Wow. It's like living in a horror movie, and just like the characters, you don't know that you're in it. How many of those out there that are listening can identify with that? Hmm? I'll bet a few of you can.
Yeah. So now I'll look at the little blue diagram in the top right there, the little note that I left. So yeah, all of these traits are highly desirable for being predatory. And these traits increase the ways to be predatory because it helps you be predatory, and it helps you be successful as a successful predator. If you have narcissism, one thing that narcissism does is you deceive yourself. Hey, I'm allowed to hurt this person. I'm allowed to go after this person. I'm allowed to obsess over this person.
Mhm.
They deceive themselves, and this causes them to keep practicing and keep thinking and keep upset. This gives them that never-ending drive to achieve that success. It's really bad. It's really sneaky, and it's really bad because they don't go, oh, you know what, maybe I overreacted. No. This revenge is earned.
Oh, they think they think that they in their, well, since they're living in their own world, they will make stuff up. They'll manufacture reasons to be that diabolical, nasty monster that they are. You don't even have to do anything. All you have to do is just be transparent, and all of these traits will come out at some time or another, especially with the covert narcissist. All of this stuff is hidden. That's what's see, when you have it on the diagram, you can see what these people do. Term loosely used, you can see it, but the covert is that's the mask. That once you shield this up and you can't tell what they're doing, this is how they get to us. That's how this is. I want these diagrams and these conversations to go as far and wide as possible. I hope someone's picking up on these, because this is revolutionary. This is absolutely what I was looking for when I started to realize what was happening. It's been many years ago. Nobody had this. This is new, at least in this format. So anyhow, yeah. So I say at the end of this, says even one of these traits is bad enough, but all five make someone truly diabolical. Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Perfect. And yeah, you know what? We'll move on to the next slide. We'll get to the next one here.
Let me close
and the
out.
next one that we're going to look at is the depravity. So we're going to be looking at egopathy, depravity.
Yeah, this is again. Remember, this is the first time I'm going through these with Connor as well. Okay, all right, Connor, we're ready.
Yep. So in your last video with me, Tier, you said, you know what? We just forgot that we're better than them. I want to show you just how big the gap is.
Okay, I like that. I'm waiting. I'm ready for this. I would love that. Okay, I'm listening.
So,
I'm listening. Okay, let's go.
You bet. So up next in this chain, from mask of perfection, egopathy, predatory desire, dark pentad of egopathy, up next is depravity.
Right.
Because they're going to project their own flaws, untrustworthiness, and wrongdoings onto everyone else, they become paranoid, and this hinders them. This gives them arrested development. And what they're doing is they always pretend their paranoia away, that they're incapable of fear. They're perfect. They can't be afraid. They're brave.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, any fear they experience, they go, no, I just respect that person. You know, when they kick the crap out of me, I don't fear them now. I respect them. That's what that is.
Wow, they got some messed up values.
Yeah, in reality, they have no respect for anyone. They really are incapable of it, and we'll explain why that is. And
do you suppose it's actually just total fear based at all, or
it's completely fear based? And we will get into that, man. We're right here. We're going to get into it.
Alrighty.
And so, yeah, they don't play by the same rules, because we do have things like respect. We have respect for other people. We have love for other people. If we didn't have these, we might not play by the same rules. It doesn't mean we'd necessarily be a bad person right off the bat, but these things are so important for helping shape our decisions. They really are. So these egopaths don't have positive traits or desires or emotions towards others. And they'll make up for it by pretending, but they're still devoid. That's the thing. They know what it looks like, so they can pretend, but it's not real. And so
Back to the mask. That's the mask of perfection. That's the name of your entire presentation. Back to the mask. That's how they do that. Yeah, they pretend.
Yes. Oh, we're getting right into it. And so, yeah, what I have here is I have Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid.
Oh.
And this is not something I made. This is something Maslow made.
Right.
But I wanted to include it here because it points out exactly what I needed to have pointed out. They end up devaluing others to overvalue themselves, and that's going to keep them, with their paranoia, it's going to keep them at the bottom of the pyramid. They're never going to make it to safety because everyone's out to get them. So they'll never make it to safety. They'll never make it to love or esteem or being self-actualized. They never make it. They're stuck at the bottom.
That's where they deserve to be.
And the problem is they're gonna stay there. They don't want to move up. They wanna keep being what they are. And so egopaths are so depraved. They are devoid of humanity. They really don't have it. So if we look at the right here, there's a lot of little bubbles coming out of the pyramid. And you'll notice the pyramid itself is grayed out, except for the very bottom part, the physiological, which is physical needs. And from physical needs, what they can do is they can assign a value to others, like you're a prey, or you're a threat, or you're useful, or you're useless.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds pretty on the dot of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely. They're just like a step above animals.
I mean, yeah, if you want to talk like crocodiles with crocodile tears, yeah, I'd say they're on the level of crocodile, reptilian. Very reptilian.
Actually, I think that you may have accidentally hit on something. Their brain is very reptilian. They haven't developed, even if you look at some of the CAT scans of psychopaths, a lot of their frontal lobes it's not performing correctly or at all. So they may be strictly on the physiological level with that mask, and there's nothing in between.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. And so let's just take a look at what they miss out on, because we're at the pyramid, you and me, tier. I'm pretty sure we're self-actualized human beings. I'm pretty sure of it.
Okay.
So let's see what they're missing out on and what we have and they don't, because this shows the difference of why we're better than them. We have respect. We don't take others for granted. We can have a respect for another person. We can be appreciative of the work they do, and we don't go, oh, yes, we're owed that work. It's no. This person's working for us out of the kindness of their heart, and we respect that. We value that.
Sure.
We also have empathy. We can visualize and experience emotions from another point of view that's not your own, right? We can think more than just about ourselves. We can think about our pets. Is our pet happy? We want to make our pets happy. That would be nice. See our little dog with the tail wagging. That's brilliant. Yes. And another thing is, as we move up here from safety to love, trust. Well, you can't have trust without respect. And I dare everyone. Here's a challenge for you. Think about of all the people you trust. Out of all the people you trust, out of those people do you say, yeah, I trust that person who I have no respect for? That's the goal there. If you can come up with, and then please explain to me why you trust someone that you have no respect for. Yeah, I really trust that piece of shit.
Yeah, those kind of go hand in hand. I see that. No, most of the pieces of shit that I know, I don't trust. I can go with that. That's pretty clear.
Now, you can trust them to be untrustworthy. You can do that.
Well, you can trust what they're going to do or not going to do. I can go with that. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Then they're done. Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. And yeah, and the next thing after trust is love for others. You can't have love without trust. And so you miss out on all this if you're an egopath. You're missing out. And they don't care though. They're happy where they are.
They're comfortable where they are. I don't know if they're happy, but they are comfortable.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. No, there is.
Yeah, they don't know happiness. The ones that I've known, they have never known genuine happiness. So they really do. No matter how badly you've been victimized. Here, I've always said this. No matter how badly you've been victimized by a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath, you have the chance to rearrange and grow and learn from it. They'll always be a narcissist. Okay, so we can actually make it through, which some of this stuff could actually help you become self-actualized. They will never get there, ever in this lifetime.
That's so brilliant. God, brilliant. And yeah, so let's move on to the next one here, esteem. Now, this one was a little tricky because on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he included ego. And the thing is, everyone has an ego, but what he was getting at is a strong, healthy ego.
His definition of ego is different. It's not the same as the egotistical, lying politicians or.
That's so brilliant.
Whatever. Yeah, go ahead. We won't go into politics.
Perfect. And so, yeah, for that one here, they're missing out on a strong sense of self. That means not a fragile ego, which the mask of perfection is very fragile. And feeding the mind over ego. I am willing to be wrong if it means I can be right at the end of the day. I'm willing to be scientific and rational about things and admit to mistakes. Because if someone can correct me, fantastic. I don't want to keep making the wrong mistake. And if someone can correct me so I always make the right choice, I'm all for that. I'm okay. I put my ego aside, but I still have a strong, healthy ego. It's grounded in reality.
It's called being an adult. That's
Yes.
something they don't know. They're stuck in being 5 years old. That's just called being an adult. Adults, it's not fun. I don't, you're wrong. Oh, you fucked up. Okay, now you got to change it, or you made a mistake. Now you have to correct it. It's called life. It's called being an adult. They don't ever get there. They never get there. They will never change. So don't worry about it. If you wonder if your ex-narcissist is having a better time with that, no, it's exactly the same as it always was. Remember, there's nothing but the mask of perfection that Connor's talked about here, and then this nonsense and nothing in between.
Yeah, and let's move on to self-actualized. Again, there's so much to talk about of how much we're better than them. And this isn't bragging. This isn't arrogance. This is confidence. This
We
is
can brag.
grounded in
I'm
reality.
better. I'm better than all the narcs that I knew. Fuck them. I like saying that now. I used to not think so, but the proof is, well, I don't need to prove anything. I am.
Oh yeah, exactly. We don't have to prove it. We know it.
Uh-huh. This is a tenet of what's going on. Again, they don't have anything besides the physiological and this mask, this pretend. It's all theater with them, and in between is nothing but a bunch of fear and garbage that they hold on to. This is their choice. They chose to do this. They chose that path. So yeah, I can say
Yeah.
I'm better. Why not? What the hell?
And yeah, so let's move on to self-actualized because this is the peak. This is you are the maximum like this is like you have achieved like the maximum desired state of being that you can achieve for what you are.
Uh-huh.
So self-actualized means you have integrity. That's soundness and moral character. That means you have morals and you actually stick by them. You're not wishy-washy, you're not a hypocrite. You have morals and you care.
Uh-huh.
We move up from integrity, morals. That guides your behavior to do what's best for yourself and others. You're not just thinking about yourself, you're also thinking about others. Such if you
Well,
had a pet.
if you're a normal human being, you have that compass inside that, and if you're listening to, well, if you're just a human being, period, you've made mistakes. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe you did something on purpose. And then when you feel that backlash of, when your conscience kicks in and it tells you, yeah, man, you shouldn't do that. When hopefully you have that still small voice. They don't have it. They don't have that voice. But we
That's right.
understand what that is. So it's okay to make a mistake or even to do something on purpose, and you can call out a mistake. But as long as you're listening to your genuine self, hopefully you learn. I try to learn. Doesn't always mean that I listen to it 100%. Nobody is 100% perfect, but the narc is so far off from that well, we have to make diagrams for him to explain behavior. That's how bad it is.
That's exactly how bad it is. And yes, to me, the highest level of self-actualized human being that you could ever be is being a leader and having leadership and bringing out the best in others. That's
Like
where
Jim
you can
Jones,
inspire others,
someone
you can
like that.
empower others, and that's not being codependent. I'm talking about some kid is having a hard day and he comes home and he can listen to something, and if he finds something that you have to say, it will change his life for the better.
Yes, I've popped off and said like Jim Jones being a leadership. I was watching some documentaries on that psycho and all the people that he killed or got to kill themselves, and so that is not the kind of leader that we're talking about. As Connor mentioned, it's somebody that can direct you into a positive state of mind, help you with your issues, to lead someone, to share your experience that's going to benefit others. Again, that's something that an ego path would never do. They'll share their experience, but only for their own. It's only for their own value, for what they can get out of it.
Well, oh yeah, they don't want to bring out the best in others. They want control of others.
But they'll tell you that they're bringing out the best in you. The gaslighting is ridiculous. It's very difficult to and maybe sometime we'll have to talk about that as well. But when you say leadership, so much of our leadership all over the world right now is so fucked up, and they're destroying people. And what and I know I'm kind of diverting, but I'll let you get back to it. It brings it up that because my discussions are kind of morphing into how did this happen, from top to, the people that and these people that are in supposed leadership positions are not supposed, they are in leadership positions, but supposedly leaders are, they are, well, they're narcissists, they're egopaths and sociopaths. These people can be in that, but it can look completely, uh, they can turn it upside down somehow. I don't know how they do it. Maybe we can talk about that as well. Hopefully you have something that explains that in the diagrams. How do they do it, Connor? I don't know.
Oh, well, we do have something a little ahead.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't mean to go totally off of that, but it reminded me of that. When someone says we have so many people that are in leadership positions, then we have these tiny discussion pages talking about things like this, and nobody ever hears it. Maybe we're the real leader. I don't know. Well, I
Well,
don't
and
know. I
that's
would
part
check
of
what I
it.
say. Go ahead. I wouldn't. Check out what. I'm okay to make mistakes or have things checked out, or even as we asked before, come up with some other terms uh, to add to the conversation. I'm completely fine with something like that. Anything that can get us off of this course, personally, politically, and spiritually, from what's going on right now, which is why these diagrams are so important to get these out. If we can do that, then not only are we better than the narcissist, we are the leaders. Wow, that sounded really bad though, but we are. Hopefully this will lead people into some sanity away from the narcissist after you can go no contact.
Yep. And that's so perfect. And yes, it's true. Like their definition of leadership is not the same as our definition. So if you guys have a better definition of leadership, what you think should be the true self-actualized human being at the peak, what is the highest, most powerful quality of a human being at their peak? And if it's not leadership of bringing out the best in others, I want to know what it is.
Okay, fair enough. Y'all heard it. There's another challenge. See what you can see.
Perfect. So yes, we'll move on to the next one now. And
All
it's
right.
getting exciting. We're going to start getting into some deep stuff now.
Oh, good Lord. Are you kidding me? That wasn't the deep stuff? Okay.
Oh, we're going to start seeing consequence after consequence here.
Oh, for the narcissist and the sociopaths, their consequences?
Oh, well, yeah, there's more in my you can escape you can avoid reality, but you can't avoid the consequences of avoiding reality.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's see what happens to him. Where are we going now?
Perfect. So we're going to go into egopathy, false advertising,